This shot is so smooth you might think, wow, is this the new Martin Scorsese film? And while my acting chops are that good, this just shows how easy it is to get smooth shots with the new DJI Ronin 4D. To talk about it more, let's go back to the studio. So, not to be too hyperbolic, but this camera is actually pretty revolutionary. You really only need to play with it for a couple of minutes to see how cool it actually is. But the more that you dive into it, the more features you discover. So I'm gonna walk you through 4 really cool things that you maybe didn't know about the Ronin 4D. The thing that probably comes to most people's mind when they think about this camera is the gimbal stabilization. And rightly so, this is one of the best gimbals I've ever seen. It utilizes the 3-axis gimbal stabilization that we all know and love. But with literally just the touch of a button, you can enable the 4th Z-axis gimbal, which adds an entirely new dimension of stability. It triggers the Z-axis arm, which kind of looks like a chicken's head when you're moving it. But trust me, there's nothing funny about it. It greatly eliminates the kind of floating up and down movement that you get with a lot of other gimbals, allowing you to get really smooth shots, whether you're doing a walk and talk, a subtle moving shot, or a fast-paced running shot. I also just really need to point out that Maria, who filmed all of those, had never even touched this camera until right before we shot, which just goes to show how easy to use and intuitive this camera really is. The second really cool thing about the Ronin 4D is the focusing system. It utilizes LiDAR, which stands for Laser Imaging Detection and Ranging. Basically, it shoots a bunch of lasers out of this rangefinder, which then bounce back and provides super accurate information about subject distance. The too long didn't read about all these lasers is that it makes the autofocus on this camera insane. I've never seen any camera come close to how accurate and sticky it is. But the LiDAR also makes manual focusing better too. It has this top-down waveform, which shows exactly how far away the subject is from the camera, allowing precision focus even if you're not a seasoned first AC. The Ronin 4D also has a high bright monitor available, which allows you to remotely monitor and operate the camera. You can easily change the camera settings, adjust the position of the lens, change the focus, and trigger recording wirelessly. This camera would be perfect for low-budget indie productions that don't have a ton of crew but still want to pull off impressive camera shots. You could have one person just worry about the camera movement, and a second pulling focus remotely. The final really amazing thing about the Ronin 4D are all the cinematic options that are built in. This is not just a really cool gimbal. This is a cinematic powerhouse. First of all, this thing has a full frame sensor, which means more detail and no crop factor. It also means better low light performance. Speaking of light, this thing has 9 stops of built-in ND filters, which is really amazing. Trust me, once you've had internal NDs, you'll never be able to go back to screwing on variable NDs to the front of your lens again. The other amazing thing is that this camera records ProRes 422 HQ and H.264 codecs. And it supports up to 8K 75 frames per second and 4K 120 frames per second video recording. There is no question, this is a professional camera that is chock full of amazing features that will help elevate your video content no matter what you're shooting. I hope that you found these tips helpful. If you have any questions or thoughts on the Ronin 4D, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. I'm Dean from B&H, and I'll see you next time.